It's okay. It's okay. Greetings and salutations, all. Thank you for joining us for this regularly scheduled board meeting on Monday, November 6th, 2023. Roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Alexander.
Present.
Ms. Autry.
Present.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Present.
Mr. Perry. I'm here. Mrs. McKittrick.
Here.
Dr. Molnar.
Here.
All 7 present.
All right, roger that. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice President Autry, would you lead us? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll move to item 1.3. This is community and/or school reflections. We'll open the floor. Ms. Jackson, did you have a community and/or school reflection?
Actually, I do, but
Okay.
I'll yield to.
Oh, okay. Ms. Autry, did you have a?
And go. So since we last met, I had the pleasure of attending the College and Career Academy 8th grade expo, and it was just a great experience. For those who are listening, folks, scholars from our pathways in the high school set up tables, and all of our 8th graders were able to come down and rotate around and see what each high school has to offer. I thought it was a really great peer-to-peer interaction. Students just really tend to be engaged when they're getting information from someone that's close to their age. So that was a really great event, lots of energy. I think each 8th grade group started off with a session that I sat in on as well. One of the important things that I did learn is that if students play 2 seasons of sports, they do get a physical education credit, but it's important that they let the coaches know so that the right information gets exchanged. So I know we have a lot of scholar athletes. And so that was just one tidbit of information that I learned at that event. Also, since we last met, I attended the Locker Room Experience Symposium organized by Mr. Vasilati. I want to thank him for inviting me to that. It was a great event. It looks like there was approximately 140 students, but all the energy in the room, it just seemed like it was maybe 5 times that amount, but there were about 20 or 25 scholar athletes from each of our high school who attended this event. They were welcomed by Presumptive Mayor Shamus Malik. They were able to hear from Mr. Danico Buckley from the city of Akron, and a few others. Then they also had breakout sessions, and what was interesting about the breakout sessions is that the male scholar athletes, their sessions were led by females, and the female scholar athletes, their sessions were led by male presenters. So that was a really nice opportunity. I was able to sit in a little bit on a few, but some of the topics they had were unity and diversity, leading diverse teams to success, the bond beyond the game, fostering team friendships, listening to lead, why good leaders make good listeners, united we stand, overcoming adversity as a team, encouraging open communication in teams, and no player left behind, inclusive leadership. So, as I stated, I was able to sit in on one, and still fresh on a lot of the students' minds were the yonder bags. I happened to come in on a session, and there were a group of students on, I guess, opposing sides. And again, it's still a topic that is really relevant to the young people. So it was interesting to sit in and listen. One of the students kept stating that, well, we should have had a chance, but a student from the other opposing side said, well, we had a chance. There was already a policy in place, which is how we got to this point. So I just loved hearing that maturity amongst the group. But thank you to all of the presenters who came out and supported our students. And that's my reflections. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Autry. Are there other community and/or school reflections? Ms. Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I also attended the College and Career Showcase that was presented by our high schooler students to our 8th graders. And I saw the superintendent who was also there with some other central office staff. I thought that was great, mingling amongst the youth. I went around to each of the booths and talked to many of the students, which did a phenomenal job. I spoke with some students from Bookdale in the educational pathway, and it was very enlightening because they explained to me the various career opportunities that the pathway covers, not just education. And the young man shared with me that he thinks that's why some people may not take that as a pathway, because they think it's just, when you hear educational pathway, that is simply just to be a teacher, but it's so much more. And so I want to say they're doing a great job because in that pathway, those who are working with those students, because he was very informative, very engaging. And really that was the case for all of the students. I went around to the masonry program, also DECA, the students in DECA. So it was just very nice. And also seeing them interact with the younger students. And so, I like to talk, and I was talking to a lot of the kids, and many of them were because they were 8th graders. I said, well, what do you think you may want to do, or which school do you think you would want to go to? And some had like 5 ideas of what they want to do. I said, well, you need to think very hard on it before you select the school. I said, because before you know it, it's going to be time. And if you have to open enroll or do something, you want to be prepared and already familiar with the pathway and get as much information as possible. So I just want to give kudos to our college and career pathways because just putting things like this together and affording students the opportunity to get a glimpse and also talk to, as Autry said, other young people that's in the program is great. The masonry program, Bookdale had 2 students there present. They were very engaging. They were very curious about the conversations we had at the board meeting about them doing work and getting paid for it. So they did mention that. Also, some students did make mention of the yonder bags. So that did come up as well because, again, I was just going around talking to the students, let them know who I was and what I did, and they said, well, what made y'all think over those yonder bags? And just like you said, we had a discussion, and some other kids, they understood and did say it's been better in classrooms since then. But one thing they did say, well, teachers should have yonder bags too, because my teacher is always on their phone. Yeah. So that is something that students are discussing. So that's something that we need to be real in our considerations when we make policies for students, that we adhere to, keep the main thing, because that's something. But it was great. And I just want to thank you all who worked to put that together, because it was very well put together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I do have 2 things I would like to discuss. The first is I had a chance last Wednesday to go to the Akron Early College open house. And my 8th grader who's a student at Litchfield is thinking about doing that next year. And I had a chance to learn a lot about the early college and the programs that it provides. I didn't know. I know now that you get such a head start on college when you're going to that program. Students there get at least 50 hours of college credits. And then there's my microphone there. And they get, at least about 2 years of college, and it's pretty good while you're in high school to get those credits, for college. So it was a great experience for us. They had panels of students who talked about their daily, what they did every day, and the classes they took. A panel of parents also were there, and they talked about what they, saw as a parent sending their kids to Akron Early College. One of the things that came up was, how scary it can be to send your 14-year-old to a college campus. Yeah. But we talked about that a lot, and about how they have the security there, and there's basically between 2 buildings that they're going to, between, I think, Buckingham and Polsky were the 2 buildings. But they talked about the safety from the student perspective and how they don't feel unsafe at all. They travel in groups at all times. They don't go one-on-one. And it really made me feel more comfortable maybe next year, my son going to Akron Early College for sure. One thing that also impressed me was they have a multicultural festival there. I don't know what month it is, but the students create poster boards about their own cultures that they come from. They wear traditional clothing, they share food, and the students are very prideful about it. So whatever month it is, Principal O'Neill, if you can hear me, make sure you invite me, because I would love to come to that and actually see it for sure. The second thing is I want to give our superintendent kudos, because I've noticed the last couple of months so much on social media that I'm rarely on, but when I do get on, I see APS, and that makes me happy. You know, the superintendent sightings, the APS Matters series, the feature teacher series, those are great. And I know Dr. Caver is also doing the Week at a Glance series, which is also good. So I encourage people to get on social media, follow Akron Public Schools, see what kind of great stuff we're doing. There's so much around that we have to offer. So look at those series. I think the APS Matters is a weekly thing, I believe, right? So it comes out every week, and look at that and just see what Akron is doing, the great things we're doing here in Akron. So kudos to that for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there other?
I would just like to say thank you, Attorney Perry, but I really want to thank our Mark and Ryan Rittenhouse because, and Ms. Joanne, because they are making those things actually happen. So,
But you're
I
the
just
great
show up.
actor in it, though. I notice you always shoot from your good side. So is that?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there any other community and/or school reflections? Dr. Marnar?
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to say congratulations are in order for the Firestone cheer team. They won a first place for the Ohio Regional Competition, which gave them a bid to nationals where they could compete against teams from across the nation at ESPN Wide World of Sports. So that's pretty amazing whenever we have scholars who are representing Akron on the national level. I also, since our last meeting, was able to visit North and STEM high school open houses. Visiting the open houses have been a great opportunity because you see current students, current teachers, current rooms, but also prospective students. You know, there are a lot of families at the open houses that are considering coming to our district next year. And so thanks to the principal at North, Frank Lane, he gave me a personal tour of the HVAC room, and it was such a large lab, and it made me think of when we were visiting the Bookdole Masonry Lab and how lucky we are to be a large enough district that we can provide these spaces for students to do this specialized work, and they are bending the sheet metal in machines that I have no idea how to use. It's amazing. I'm so proud of our students and our instructors. They made a Tin Man out of, it almost looked like a robot, but then at STEM, we actually visited the robotics lab, and I found out that this weekend, STEM and Firestone are going to be at a competition. We are hosting a competition here in Akron where teams from other states and even Canada are coming to watch this robotics competition. And it was a reminder that we have world-class programs. And we have been to the world-class, and we've been to the world, and we have two teams. Not just one team, but two teams that have made it to this VEX robotics competition. And so I know we got our City Series cards. Next, I think, is our City Series robotics competitions here because we have this. But I just was so proud of our city, so proud of our students. And I also visited the 8th grade showcase, and it was really interesting how the students were presenting from the student perspective. It was students presenting to students, and so it was based on what they thought was interesting about their programs. And the cybersecurity team from STEM was presenting on what we would describe as a real-world project, but they described as prank the teacher. And they did an entire project where they basically pranked their teachers to insert malware on their computers to see how vulnerable our systems are. And I said, does our director of technology know this? Because apparently it was 100% effective. And what I also didn't know until I visited the STEM open house is the malware that they installed, they rickrolled all the teachers. And for any technology nerds out there, there's a song from 1987 that I won't sing now because you'll never get it out of your head, but that's what they did. So I'm just proud to be an APS parent. My kids look forward to the programs and opportunities ahead of them here in our district, and I'm proud that we have programs that foster innovation and hope to keep the momentum going.
Thank you, Dr. Monar.
Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Molnar, I'm glad you said something about the cheerleaders because I got a text from Coach Shauna Johnson and Ashley Cowan and Amaria Johnson and Shanti Johnson, the coaches over there, explaining to me and make sure you say this here at the board meeting. So you did it. Thank you. Thank you. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to go to Akron NAACP Freedom Fund event, and the title was Thriving Together. The speaker was Dr. Ivory Tollison. He's the National Director of Education, Innovation, and Research for the National NAACP. And I'm going to come back to him in just a second because I have to highlight this student. One of our students yesterday, a young man from Firestone High School by the name of Troy Weiss, who's a 10th grader. He sang yesterday, did the Pledge of Allegiance, and he sang Lift Every Voice and Sing. And this young man is talented. You know, to see our kids on the stage like that with a lot of people, not just from Akron, but people from all over, basically all over the state and some from all over the country who were there. And this young man did a great job. Now, he did not seem nervous at all. He sang the song really well and did a great job. So he deserves to be congratulated, and I look forward to seeing more from him because he's going to probably be somewhere doing something really big, singing somewhere. And he's only a sophomore, so that was good. Dr. Tolson, it was nice to hear him speak also because he spoke about something that's kind of been dear to my heart for years, since I was in high school, and that's been a couple years. He talked about the way that we teach and how we teach our kids and the different ways that we should teach our kids. He told a story about himself, how he went to a Catholic school, and while in Catholic school, he was labeled that he was special ed. He could not do the things he needed to do. He was not going to be successful. He was a troublemaker. And so his mom took him out of the Catholic school and put him into public school. And he said that's when he got saved, because there was a teacher who understood what was going on in his mind, knew how to teach him, and he went on now to be a doctor doing some great things across the United States. But what if he would have listened to some of those who said he wasn't going to succeed, would have not had the right teachers to come into his life to teach him what he needed to know and teach him in a way that he could understand? He was way ahead of them, and they were not teaching at the level he should have been at, which we know that when you're teaching, you should teach at all levels for all kids, no matter what classroom it's in. And he is really good. I would love to see him come to Akron to talk to us and do a workshop, because he was very, very good. He was very humble, but very knowledgeable. And he's probably only about 50 years old, 45, 50 years of age. But he's really good. So I wanted to say that about him because I thought that was really good, and it can be something educational for us and hopefully possibly even take us to another level, which is always what I look for, to strive for us to be the best school district in the country. I'm not giving up on that, so we can get there. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Alexander. Are there any other community and or school reflections? I just want to say thanks. I know that each of us at our table has this lifetime pass that was just issued that grants all of us lifetime admission to all City Series athletic events. Dr. Molnar got me thinking, though, we may need to figure out a way to expand this out to include robotics competitions and choirs in the rounds and bands in the rounds. I'd like to get this expanded out to where it's a pass to all APS events, so because we have a lot. Athletics is fantastic, but there are other things as well that I'd like to be able to attend. And I've gone to some of the robotics things as well. Those robots. Those are really, really talented teachers, coaches, and kids, is all I can say. And they are world caliber talents. So thanks for that reference. So. Having said that, I think that now concludes this section of the agenda. Next, we'll move to item 3.1, which is a request to address the board. I have nobody signed up to address the board tonight, so we'll move to item 4, which is the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes from 10/23/23?
So move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice President Autry and seconded by Mr. Perry. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Next, we move to personnel recommendations. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I would like to recommend the approval of the personnel recommendations presented in categories 5 through 16.
Is there a motion to approve the personnel recommendations?
I move to approve.
It's been moved by Mr. Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. McKittrick. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes, but abstain from 7.1.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0 and 6-1 with an abstention on 7.1.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. I want to recognize at this time and thank the board for allowing me to provide additional support that is very much needed at the level that I'm at. I want to introduce to some here in the room, but also to our listening audience, our new Chief of Staff, Ms. Angela Carter. If you would stand, Ms. Carter. Everyone recognize you, please. Let's give her a hand. Ms. Carter began her career in education in Palmer City, schools where she taught students with emotional and behavioral disorders in grades 4 through 6. I won't read all of her bio as it will be sent out, but I do want to just highlight some of the things that are in her bio. She came to APS in 2001, where she taught at Findlay Academy, now Findlay CLC. She also has a master's degree in education and certification in special education, which she received from the University of Akron. She also has degrees in psychology and sociology from Tennessee State University. Ms. Carter has she was an assistant principal at Barrett Academy in 2004, and then became the principal of Krause Elementary School, now Krause CLC, 2 years later. After 5 years at the helm of Krause, the state designated it a turnaround school. Such schools experience meaningful improvements in student achievement. Following this, she accepted the role as a turnaround principal. She also has had the opportunity to work with many of our partners, and what felt very good was listening to one of our partners who provides a great deal of significant support to our district say to me, "You made the right choice." I believe that the work that I've been here 3 months, and what I always say to my staff is that you are interviewing for the job every time you stand and present, every time you are out representing the district. And I believe that Ms. Carter is going to do a phenomenal job. Some may ask, what do you need a chief of staff for? A chief of staff serves as a major pillar and major role in the organization of the work that I have to do as a superintendent. And so there's a lot of it. There's much that our public, unfortunately, doesn't get a chance to see. You may see me out and about, but the intimacy of the work that happens each and every day, that's the part that many people do not get a chance to see. And so it's a lot of work that she's going to have to do. She will be interfacing with a lot of our legislators, working around policy, doing a lot of things that have to deal with our current legislations. So she has a lot of work that's going to be done and trust and believe it's going to take a tremendous load off of Ms. Ruth, my assistant, who I think I have worked to death since I have been here. And so many times people don't see that, but what I can assure our district and our public is that we're not going to go in any type of fiscal distress because we have made this position. I repurposed the position that we had. So I'm careful to know that I don't want a 5-year forecast where we're in the red, and so I will ensure that we will not be. But it is not typical for superintendents to come into a district and not bring someone who is going to support their vision and mission. I chose to work with the talent that we have here in Akron, and we have a great deal of talent that is here in the Akron Public Schools. And so I look forward to sharing many of the things that we will be doing going forth. And I'm happy to be able to work with Ms. Carter on the work that is going to be done. She has no idea yet, but she'll find out tomorrow morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh, Mr. Perry.
I just want to congratulate Dr. Carter for sure for doing this. I mean, it's great promotion. I know. Congratulations, yeah, seriously. But I also want to give a hand to Ruth for getting a lesser workload. I mean, that's great, right? Yay, Ruth.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Mr. Perry. Any other comments? All right. Next, we'll move to items 18 through 21, approval of resolutions and motions in the consent agenda. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, President Hall. I wish to recommend approval of the resolutions and motions presented in Category 21. They are in proper format, and I move for their approval.
Is there a motion? Well, first of all, let me point out that we have a first reading of policies in 18.2. Policy 7540-02, which is web accessibility, content, apps, and services, a first reading. Second, 7540.03, which is student technology use and safety, first reading. Next, 7540.04, which is staff technology use and safety, also a first reading. Policy 8300, which is continuity of organizational operations plan, first reading. And last but not least, policy 8315, information management, which is new to APS, also a first reading. So just want to call that to the attention of my colleagues. This is the first reading for those 5 policies. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
So moved by Ms. McKittrick, has been seconded by Mr. Perry. Is there any discussion? Yes, Vice President Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take this brief moment and acknowledge in item 19.1 the donations that we have a list of at every single board meeting, from individuals, from churches, from businesses and organizations. And no amount is too small or insignificant, especially when it comes to our most vulnerable, students who might just need a coat, a hat, things of that nature, but also supporting, our clubs. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then also item 19.2, the LeBron James Family Foundation, for further supporting our scholars and providing funding so that we can have additional teachers and bodies in the classrooms to reduce the classroom size. So that's going to go a long way in helping our scholars. So I just want to say out loud, thank you, and acknowledge those things.
Thank you, Vice President Autry. Are there any other discussion? Okay, I just would want to add to what Ms. Autry just shared. We have Dr. Campbell's with us in the audience tonight, as long as I see Ms. Vick out there as well. So again, thank you for being regular guests at our board meetings, and also thank you for your continued robust support of our schools here. I want to say this is 9 positions that are made possible through this funding from the LeBron James Family Foundation. So I want to make sure that we provide proper due and thanks to Dr. Campbell and Ms. Vick, who are here in person tonight. So thank you kindly for being here, and thank you, of course, for your continued support of APS. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Jackson.
I mean, since you called them out,
Well,
Dr. Campbell and Mrs. McGee, I promise, and the organization also provides wonderful opportunities for our learners after they leave school as high schoolers. And I think at some point, maybe just highlighting some of the internships, the things that these young people get to see, because I know I talked to Dr. Campbell last summer, and you shared with me some of the great experiences that our children were able to have. And I think that's something else that needed to be highlighted, because it's multifaceted. It's not just we know that they go to college and they have those opportunities, which are great, but they also have experiential learning to see about certain jobs in places like Nike and things like that, and what a career like that would look like. So I just, since we were talking about it, I thought I would add that too.
well, I think I feel a future board presentation coming up, and that'd be a great topic for it. Yeah. All right. Are there any other comments or discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson?
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, roger that. Next, we'll move to item 23, Business Affairs Recommendations. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, President Hall. I wish to recommend approval of the business affairs recommendations presented in Category 23.
Okay, is there a motion to approve said Business Affairs recommendations?
So move.
It's been moved by Mr. Alexander. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Vice President Autry. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry.
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
I did have some discussion, but yes.
Mr. Perry,
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
Mrs. McKittrick.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
I mean, still a yes.
Ms. Jackson, did you want to opine?
Yes. I'm sorry. I mean, it would still be a yes. But when I look through business affairs and I see a lot of these programs, like these after-school programs and things for students, which seems like it's around like a lot of social, emotional health and leadership qualities, all which I think are very good. I'm just wondering what do we have that informs us on the effectiveness of these programs, and that they are well suited for these schools, specific schools? Because I see schools on here, which are also some of the schools that show, when we ask for data as far as discipline, had high numbers of discipline issues. So I'm just curious, when we're having these programs that are teaching that are saying they're teaching leadership skills and things like that, what is evidence of the success of those programs that we fund? Do we have that? I'm just putting that out there. I love after-school programming. I think it's important. I think it can keep students out of a lot of trouble. But I also know they need to be effective and impactful, because if they are effective and impactful, then we should see change in behavior.
Yeah.
And so that's just what I'm putting out there. But I support them because I think they're good. I just want to know the outcome.
I think that's well said. Dr. Robinson, did you want to comment on that?
Yes. Thank you for that, Ms. Jackson, and thank the board for, we have our Blueprint for Excellence, which is the strategic plan that will be coming out. We're pushing, the goal is December. And so when from that Blueprint for Excellence, the strategic plan, you will begin to see systems and structures that will be put in place around programmatic things that are in our schools. So we're going to be assessing and looking at whether or not things are effective, and what's the return on the investment, and what is the data showing. We're currently working right now, Student Services, Dr. Lash and Ms. Culver and Dr. Chapman, are working right now to put together a model for MTSS. Thank you so much. I almost forgot it myself. Multi-tier systems of supports. So we right now have things that are in various places, but we're bringing all of that stuff kind of under one model that's going to, and then professional development and all those things will go with that as well. But we also need to, and a part of my superintendent comments, which flows right into this, we're going to be looking at the number of referrals that are coming from schools, what those referrals are for. So I've spoken with Dr. Lash about gathering that data. We want to know the frequency, the number of expulsions. So we're going to be looking at that information to determine the effectiveness of the things that we have going on. But in order for this to kind of work, you need to have a model, which is going to require some professional development and a new way of thinking for our school administrators as well as for our teachers. So on the way, on the horizons, you will see that information, and then we can really look at that. But that is a phenomenal question, and that is the question that kind of I've been asking since I've been here on many of the things and as it relates to discipline. There are some things that we are working on kind of behind the scenes, sketching out, looking at how we can really work to do some different things around our discipline in some of our schools, with some of our scholars, which I had in my notes to actually ask parents to really work with our teachers and to work with our school leaders and administrators, because in many cases they are working very hard. But we do have policies, we do have systems and procedures. If kids are disrupting class, they're gonna have to go see the administrator. Mm-hmm. And so we're asking the parents and the kids themselves, if they would put a concerted effort to really and truly work with us and focus on classroom management and behavior of themselves and policing that themselves. That's nice to have an MTSS model, great that we have PBIS, but this doesn't even require a label. It's just asking you to do what you should be doing, and that's come to school on time, which some of our kids are struggling with right now. But we need them to come on time, and when they come, we need them to be successful. Well, success starts at home, and then it comes to school. And so we need our parents to really work with our teachers and our kids to work with our teachers and administrators in helping to decrease some of our numbers, where I'm seeing a lot of the numbers rising in certain places in schools around certain infractions. And so to your point, absolutely, we do need to be looking at that, and we are going to be looking at that to provide the data and actually study where are these infractions and things happening, because we do have a lot of programs that, and opportunities that people provide for us. It's working in some places better than it is in other places, meaning some schools better than other schools, some classrooms within certain schools better than other classrooms within those schools. But we really need, and that's why I'm appealing, is actually in my notes this evening, to appeal to our parents, to appeal to our scholars in terms of their behavior, because only they can control their behavior. I mean, what we do is, we can discipline them, right? Meaning that we can bring them to the office if it's an infraction that violates a policy, we can follow the policy. But that's not really what we want kids. I don't want kids being put out of school. I don't want them being expelled from school. But I also cannot have them in school disrupting the learning environment for kids whose parents, just like theirs, want them to learn too. But they also have parents that, hey, I'm sending my kid to school, my scholar to school to learn. And if the classroom is disruptive because you have kids who are just unruly or not paying attention or not following rules and regulations, then we're going to have to address that. So that is something that we have been looking at, and we're working on some alternative opportunities to help some of our kids, because we want to educate them and we want them to be here in Akron Public Schools. It just may not be necessarily that the school that they're in maybe it's not the right placement for them. So we are working on that. Yes, ma'am.
Where are the teachers at in this? Because I heard in your discussion, are you talking to, because I would be curious for these teachers in the various buildings, like to just have conversation, like what are the teachers saying that are in the buildings as far as what they believe programs are effective or not and why, right? There are students that attend them or students they believe would benefit for such programs but may not go and why. Is it transportation? Are they bus students so they can't stay after school because nobody can, you know, those type of things. I just really feel as though, and you may have, I just missed it when you were talking, I really want to hear what the teachers are saying in lieu to what, you know, student feedback and parent feedback, because I've heard from various students, not with after school program, but and teachers that really look out for students, because sometimes maybe home environment is not. So, you know, you can do a plea to homes,
Right.
but in some cases, teachers know and can inform dynamics of homes too,
Right.
or building administrators. So I just wonder maybe if that type of conversation happens before a expulsion referral, because the teachers can speak to detentions, in some cases, suspension, building level suspensions or office referrals, right? And if a student was referred to the office but it didn't get a severe infraction and was sent back or got a moment to calm themselves, what is the teacher's perception of that? And then how does that impact the overall classroom environment? If the teacher, if I go to an administrator possibly, and I'm as a teacher, because doing what you're saying, I'm trying to manage my classroom, and you are a distraction. And so you go to the principal's office, and the principal says, you know, just questions like that. I don't want to belabor the meeting, but you get what I'm saying? I just really want to hear what our teachers saying, and then what administrators are.
Well, as I'm in schools, which is often, I'm meeting, as I visit classrooms, I'm talking with teachers, which is really prompting some of my actions in terms of some of the things that we're trying to do behind the scenes to work on some opportunities for some of our scholars who perhaps the placement where they are is not as effective. But there are other things that we're talking about as well. But we really need the MTSS model to be implemented, and we need them to follow it, which will help in some cases with some of those behaviors. I want to also, excuse me, say thank you to I Promise for inviting me over. I've been over there quite often, so I feel like I'm part of the family now. But I like going over there. I enjoy the school. National days for November, National Family Literacy Day, which some of these things we've celebrated. National Stress Awareness Day, School Psychology Week, which is 6th through the 10th. And I want to say to all our psychologists, thank you so much for the work that you do. I've made it my business over my career to learn the roles and responsibilities of people and what they actually do. And those are jobs that are hard to fill. So when we have them, I just want them to know how much we appreciate them and thank them for being a part of our Akron Public Schools family. National STEAM Day, November the 8th. World Kindness Day, November 13th. National Education Support Professionals Day, which is on the 16th. And I want to say to our paraprofessionals, our teaching assistants, thank you. I hear you. I've met with them. We are going to continue to meet and work on some of the things that they would like to see changed. But it's important for our school leaders and for our teachers to recognize the hard work that these paraprofessionals, our teaching assistants, actually do in the schools. They are not just, babysitters. That's not their job. They do a lot more than what some people think that they do. And in some cases, they're doing small group instruction and doing things that, you know, we wouldn't think that they would be doing. But they do a lot to help us, and I just want to thank them. Our Substitute Educators Day is on November the 17th. I want to thank our substitutes for being here. I had the pleasure of going to, and I'm going to screw it up again, I know, but it's Leadership Akron. And I cannot thank Mr. Lieberth enough. He is one astonishing historian. And I'm telling you, I could have sat there all day and listened to him talk about the history and the rich history and heritage of Akron and Akron public schools and everything. But I just want to note that in, of course, Simon Perkins in 1825, who founded Akron, but in the 1840s, Ansel Miller and Reverend, help me out, Miss Deborah, Jennings, yes, which is why we hence have Jennings CLC. Reverend Isaac Jennings, founder of Akron Public School System and pastor of the First Congregational Church. We went there yesterday. There were some time issues, but we still had a great time meeting with the community and with the parishioners after church. Pastor Reverend Pitts, who is just absolutely awesome. I had already heard her preach, but she is phenomenal in her leadership. But many people don't even know that policy was started in Akron Public Schools. Akron Public Schools led the state in the creation of policy. Policies were taken from Akron Public Schools and began to migrate throughout other school districts, and so we were leaders and led the way. And if we led way back in the 1800s, then we're certainly going to lead and keep leading the way. You just watch and see what's going to happen in Akron Public Schools. Inclement weather. Parents, I just want to be sure that you understand that this school year, if there is snow or if the schools are closed, they are closed. There will be no principal at the school. Please pay attention to our website. We will be sending out blasts through text messaging. We will be doing robocalling. We will have it on our various news stations, our radio station. We actually own a radio station, and so we will be putting it on there as well. But there will be no one at the school. So we really need for parents to pay attention and scholars to pay attention when there is inclement weather. There will be no one at the school. So please pay attention. Do not send them because there will be no one there. The staff is already putting themselves in jeopardy by coming out when the schools are closed. So I need to make sure our employees are safe. I want to make sure our scholars are safe, but please do not bring them to school. Huh?
Before you go on, can I tap in? All right, so when schools are closed, often in schools, including my very own school, you have kids that show up. And it can be littles that show up. And so I'm thinking with the district this size, and I'm sure you all will probably have this information, I'm thinking about those kids who are walkers, whose parents aren't seeing the news, or if they don't have, because we're making assumptions when we say phone and blast, when we know right. some people don't have electricity at times, right? Or they may not have that resource, on top of the fact of our foreign population. And so how they communicate, and I know we have things that are supposed to be interpreted for them, but still it may be a disconnect in that communication. So I'm just cautious about that statement that no one will be in buildings, because if, in fact, you have a straggler, even though you're saying this and you do the blast, because I know we already get the robocalls, it's already on the news. Mm-hmm. It's on Facebook, because soon as one parent knows, they are sharing it. And so but that still does not stop the stragglers. And it may not be a lot. It may be just a handful, but you still can have kids that show up. And so if that happens in inclement weather or it's cold and you have a little by little, you know what I'm saying, like elementary age child, I'm just concerned about what that could turn into when there's no human at their building and they walk to the school, the weather is a mess, no one called the parent like, hey, we have your child, school is closed, we're gonna make sure they get home, or can someone come pick them up? And then you got this kid out there and then it started blizzard or somebody slide on ice. Just to think, just the process, because I understand what you're coming from on behalf of the staff and things like that, but I just want us to consider the population where that communication may not be so readily received or understood.
We're also going to be sending home a letter. In fact, I'm not sure, Ms. Deborah, did it go out yet?
The letter started going out this afternoon.
Okay.
And translations were completed today.
Okay, great. And I understand that. I've been in, I worked in other districts very much like this. But our parents are going to have to pay attention to, because if this was a national disaster, there is not going to be anybody there to receive them. So we really need our parents to please. That's the reason we're sending it home now, and we're going to be blasting this stuff out weekly in hopes that they will follow and understand that sometimes our staff is not going to be able to make it out to get to them to get to a school. So we're trying to now do it proactively ahead of time to let parents know we need for you to please. That's why it's going to be, and on days like that, of course, we would be doing all of those things as well. But we want the website to be a place, and I understand that sometimes if electricity goes out, if they haven't charged their phone, they may not know those things. But we're going to hope that as a community we can come together to understand that, because the concern has been that many of our staff members are coming out, and some of them are not coming out of places where they really can even get here to some of the schools. So you've had a delay anyway. And someone being there. Our custodians will be there, but those are not principals.
I mean, it's just, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They say I always need to talk in the mic. Okay, I understand. Because a custodian still, like if a custodian is there and it's a child, could make a phone. I'm just trying to see what would that look like. Because I know that we have kids, we have over 2,000 documented kids that are homeless. And those are those we know are homeless.
Yeah.
We're not talking about those that we don't know. We do know during COVID, when schools were closed and everyone had those hot spots, you had kids living in woods and was having to come to McDonald's to connect to the Wi-Fi, so these are the nuances within the district that when we do like blanket statements and policies that we have to process through. And as you said, I do think it's good because you're in front of it early to then unpack these nuances that exist within the district, because that's a real thing, right? So thank you, Superintendent.
Because for many of our kids, some of our McKinley-Vento kids are picked up. So they wouldn't be getting picked up. There's so many of them are in some of our shelters, some of those places that we would be notifying to let them know. But I know on any given day, no matter what you do and how much you send out, somebody's going to still show up anyway. But that's something we will continue to work through. But we're starting now. Actually, the first snow kind of got ahead of us, but we had already, this wasn't something we did as a result of that. It was already in motion. We just had a snow day, which didn't cut school out, but it started. I want to invite board members. You were sent an invite. If you can, we would like for you to have input and voice into the blueprint. So you were sent some invites. So if you can, please come. We would like very much to have your input, because this is our blueprint for the district. Thank you to Ms. Sarlee's class. I got a chance to go and read at Finley. CLC, and it happened to be a book about a dog. So I was able to show them my little dog, and they were able to tell me about their cat and their dog. So I enjoyed that, and I'm going to do more of that. Our Be Kind, featured teachers, just to, thank you, Attorney Perry, for recognizing the work that the team has done. Chelsea Nicolino, science teacher at NIF STEM, and Ms. Leslie Crow, ESL teacher at Jennings, was recognized. And I send those across the U.S. as well, so people get a chance to see some of the great things and some of our phenomenal teachers. And we are going to begin doing recognition of those support staff members starting in January. Today is my Be Kind 330 share out. I have an example of how one person's act of kindness can affect many others. On the screen, you will see one of our school secretaries, Miss Mary Shub, for her 60th birthday. So we want to say happy birthday to her. Miss Mary wanted to celebrate by helping others. She set a goal to collect 60 gift cards to donate to Project Rise. Her family and friends helped her to exceed her goal. She collected over 75 gift cards. She's going to have another one because I'm going to donate one. And this act of kindness will be a blessing to many of our APS scholars and families who are in need during the holiday season. Thank you, Ms. Mary, for for your generous act of kindness, and happy birthday to you. Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Roger that. Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Appreciate that. Next, we'll move to President's Report. I just have a handful of items. Let me just pick up with Dr. Robinson's earlier comment about Mr. Lieberth and his, as a Class 38, I know Ms. Autry's Class 40, and Leadership Akron begins with, day one is with him giving a very robust overview of Akron's history, including the parts that are not so pleasant, I might add. And so he's certainly an expert. One of the things that I know that he has shared is that, Akron was the first Ohio district to offer free public education. And so to Dr. Robinson's point, from our inception, we have been a district that is market driving, not market driven. And I'm looking forward to seeing our district under Dr. Robinson's leadership continue to be market driving as opposed to being market driven. That's my first comment. Secondly, to Ms. Jackson's earlier point, I had a note to comment on this as well with regard to data. We have many partnerships in the community. We have many programs, some of which are funded general funds, some are grant funded. But one of the things I'm looking forward to as a part of our blueprint for success, and that model is how do we create the platform for reports out to this board on how those partnerships are going, and how are these programs, whether they're grant funded or general fund funded, how are they going, right? What metrics have we come up with to evaluate success, right? And so that's something I know that this board has asked for, and I know is a part of the plan as we move forward, is to ensure that this board is informed with regard to our partnerships and the state of those partnerships. And excuse me, I'm getting over kind of a cold here, so excuse my issues with speaking tonight. Next, starting next week, I know that my time on this board is drawing to an end, Ms. McKittrick and I, but I have it as a goal, Ms. Ruth, so you know, to get to every single school in Akron one more time before school is done in December. So I will be very busy starting next week because I don't want to go to schools with this going on. So although I am on the mend, so we'll be pedal to the metal to get to all those schools one more time, to say my goodbyes and to say my thanks to people before my time on this board is done. Speaking of which, tomorrow we have an election. And I would be remiss if I did not wish Dr. Monar luck tomorrow in her attempt to stay on this board. So good luck tomorrow, Dr. Monar. After tomorrow, we will know who the 3 new candidates for the school board are that will be joining in January. That that will be, at a minimum, be replacing myself and Ms. McKittrick. And so we will begin transition planning with those new board members. So much will be experienced in the past. We'll be bringing those 3 folks on to do transition planning with the current board members and superintendent. So that way we have a glide path to continuity starting in January. So that's Ms. Autry and I's commitment to all of you to ensure that takes place. So we'll be working with Dr. Robinson and Ruth and probably Ms. Carter, our new chief of staff, to get that set up and organized. So just want to share that. Next, I know that on tonight's agenda was 18.1. There was the information around payment in lieu. I'm getting a lot of questions about that program, in the last couple months. And so the public content portion, I think, does a nice job of explaining it. But the questions, I'm getting 2 questions. Ms. Folk, if I could ask you to weigh in here. The first question is, do parents just need to reach out and call down here to ask to speak to you if they've got questions about that program? Is that the right process to follow?
Yes, they're more than welcome to.
Okay. I mean, but is that the right process? Is that?
Actually, it is handled by the transportation department, but I help with it, and I can always answer the question.
Okay, gotcha. Is there information on our website that explains who they should contact? Because I don't want to have this. I don't want to have folks calling you. If we have a prescribed process. Is that on the website?
No, it's not, because it's very delineated to students that attend non-Akron
Right.
public schools.
Yep.
So therefore, it is not on our website.
Okay, gotcha. And then the last question then is, when does that pay out? Does it pay out at the end of the school year, or does it pay out? So, for example, there's a new list tonight of students on there that are going to receive the $596.43. Are they receiving that now, or does it pay out at the end of the school year?
It pays out at the end of the school year after it closes.
Okay.
And the state may change the amount it's paid in May.
Okay.
And therefore, the checks are usually issued the last part of June or the early part of July.
Okay. All right. So checks are issued last part of June, early part of July, pays out at the end of the school year. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Volk. Appreciate that. Next, so we have the Ohio State or OSBA Capital Conference is next week, the 12th through the 14th. So I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues and superintendent there. That's our capital conference. I know that we are trying to get some time together for some retreat planning, possibly some transition planning as well. So we'll get more information out to you all with regard to that. And then last but not least, I want to second Dr. Robinson's earlier ask that board members please make time to attend some of the Blueprint for Success sessions, because again, this is our opportunity to provide some feedback and viewpoints on our long-term strategic plan. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions or comments anybody may have? Okay, hearing and seeing, then we'll move to Treasurer's report. Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. The only request I have is many of you have received an email from the State Auditor's Office. If you could please get that in before I have to post your name on the internet or something like that. So just fill that form out. If you have any questions, you can call myself or Todd Atkins, but it's pretty straightforward. It'll probably take 5 minutes tops to fill that out. So thank you.
Yes, Vice President.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
Vice
just wanted
President
to add to that, Dr. Thompson, you can actually call and do the application, which is what I did. And so he asked me to kindly remind my colleagues that you can also call as well. I thought I was the only one left, but he said I was not. But yes, this is a new requirement that the board has to fill out this questionnaire from the Ohio auditor. So you can just call. It took me less than 5 minutes.
The questions, though, you guys said it was simple, and I was just reluctant to answer those questions without having full details and facts. So because I opened it in Google Docs, I did say to call, but I said I knew I had a board meeting tonight because I just seen it, honestly. And so, yeah, it's a lot to me because it's asking specific questions if I'm aware of certain things. And so I didn't want to answer just off the cuff when it could be things that has happened or vulnerable points that you may know that I should be stating that I'm unaware of. So I didn't know if I should just put unaware, but as a board member, I'm like, I feel like I should be aware if it's a threat to this or that. So I overthink, because I don't want to just say some random thing and then be in the audit or in the paper if somebody audits us and say this was not true. In my mind is how I think. So I will still be talking to you over that, because I don't want to just do a general 2 minutes. I want to be sure what I'm saying when I'm saying it, that I'm clear of what I'm saying. Thank you.
All right.
And generally, the response often is, I'm unaware, as Mr. Perry, as an attorney, would probably tell you.
Yeah.
That's a foolproof way. And quite frankly, many of those questions board members wouldn't be privy to. And I don't think that means you're asleep at the wheel. It's just that's not, a lot of those questions aren't really the responsibility or role of a school board member. So I wouldn't be afraid to say that, but absolutely give us a call, and Todd and I can walk you through it if you want to do it that way.
Okay, thank you for that, because I did feel like it meant we were asleep at the wheel.
No.
Since the board has 2 employees, the superintendent and the treasurer, and then is asking certain specific financial questions, I felt as a board member I should be able to answer that. So, yeah, I'll talk to you.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Well, you know, Vice President Autry, as the Finance Committee Chair, she has the answers to all those questions. So if you're wondering, just call her. She's got all the specifics and the details. So, all right. We kid because we love. We kid because we love. Okay. So next we move to, actually, was that all, Dr. Thompson?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Next we'll move to committee reports, legal contracts, and board policy. Dr. Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report. Our next meeting will be November 20th.
Okay. Roger that. Thank you. Next we'll move to finance and capital management. Ms. Autry.
Thank you. Have no report. I was going to give that reminder, actually, that Dr. Thompson did, and finance will be resuming in 2 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have the cheat sheet to those questions, right? You pass them.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we'll move to instructional policy and student achievement. Mr.
Yes,
Alexander.
we did meet October 30th, and those present were Ms. McKittrick, Dr. Molnar, and myself. And we had our presenters, Dr. Cavers wasn't there this meeting, so our presenters was Ms. Ebright, Ms. Bowden, and Ms. Lundy. And they gave us a robust presentation that was really good. The first piece they talked about was the was in business affairs, 23.5, the 4G, forward generational learning, which will be a piece that will allow training for the superintendent, senior leaders, school leaders, and the community leaders, which I thought was good, so that'll get them involved and get them to understand some of the things that are going on there. We went on to talk about the summer program. I thought this was really good. Ms. Bolton got in and talked about the summer program and how robust it was, how many kids there were, how well it was, and also that there was a national program, the Wallace program, if I got it right, the Wallace program, which is a foundation, Wallace Foundation, which is a national program to recognize Akron Public Schools programs, which I thought was good. And they're going to have a video that will come out and involve Akron Public Schools. So I think that's another good way of marketing Akron Public Schools without having to really market it ourselves. And so that's a good tool there. They talked about that, talked about the after-school program, the extension of the after-school program, how it is done during after-school hours, but it extended throughout the summer, which was good. So kids really didn't lose a lot. There are programs that consist of sports enrichment program, academic enrichment, and it just has a whole lot. And they also gave us a couple stats. I think most of us were kind of looking at some of this. There were 191 camps that were going on this past summer. There were 8,544 students registered, and there were 6,374 students who attended, which was 75% of those students who enrolled did attend the summer program. And so thought that was really good that they gave us that information. Also, Ms. Ebright talked about the college and career academies and how it was expanded and the learning that happens that goes on with CCAA. And she also talked about and gave us a presentation on the students. There were all the middle school students that attended an extended program where they had opportunity to see all the college and career academies. So they got a chance to experience it, got a chance to see what was going on there. Then we went on to talk about, let me make sure then. Oh, there was 3 grants, and I don't know the name of the grants. There are 3 new grants, 21st century grants that we're getting as well. I think that will help us with some of that. Then we went on to talk about the family resource centers and how they had a health fair and how good it was, how the kids enjoyed being part of that, and how well it was done. And then, of course, our stay in the game of making sure our kids come to school, continue to come to school, continue to learn, and get their education. Ms. McKittrick, did I leave anything out? No. And then, that's it. Okay. And then they did give us some handouts too, and we can all get handouts. A lot of nice little handouts they gave us too that talked about some of the programs and some of the things that were going on with the summer adventures and things of that nature and expanded learning. So if anybody wants to see this, or we can see these, or we can see Marcy Ebright or Dr. Cavers, and they can give us that information. Thank you.
Roger that. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Next, we'll move to equity. Ms. McKittrick.
Thank you. We also met on October 30th, and if you look in your agenda, there is a link for some of the updates. We started with a presentation by Ms. Folk, and she gave us an update on our minority business enterprises and how we are trying to build on those year after year. And for reference, in fiscal year 22, $1.7 million worth of business from MBEs. In 2023 fiscal year, $7.5 million. And so far in fiscal year 2024, so July, August, September, October, $1.6 million. And those numbers are being increased year after year. We also talked about training content, and equity committees will review training topics used with staff. Then we talked about the DEI district advisory team. They met October 11th, and it was the first meeting of the new year, and the next meeting is the 13th of December from 8:30 to 1:30 p.m. The ERGs, Ms. Carter and Christopher Martin, they are going to be presenters at an employee resource group teacher panel at Kent State on December 4th from 7 p.m. to 8:30. And the focus of that will be how to create inclusive classrooms. And then finally, we had a couple other things. Dr. Chapman, Dr. Glover, and Nicole Hassan will be presenters representing APS at the ESC of Northeast Ohio on November 15th regarding a cultural sensitivity session. And finally, our DEI learning specialist, Ms. Wilma Cohen-Alexander, will be undertaking training to become a qualified administrator of the Intercultural Development Inventory, or the IDI. So this is to augment intercultural competence, so she will be a qualified administrator for that. The idea is to shift cultural perspective and adapt behavior to cultural differences and commonalities. And these are all linked also in your agenda. And that's our report.
Roger that. Thank you, Ms. McKittrick.
Sure.
Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Autry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say to my colleagues, I wasn't able to come to the Equity Committee meeting, but I had a discussion with Dr. Chapman about the training that she's providing along with her team to the district. And so shouldn't we have it as well as board members? And so based on that, and Ms. McKittrick, you mentioned it already, at each equity committee meeting moving forward, they will break down the topics that she incorporates at the training. So I think normally it's like a 6-hour. So of course, she's gonna put it in bite-sized pieces for us. So just encouraging all of us when we can to come out to that training or at least watch it in your free time, and for requiring or wanting everyone else in the district to take it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Perry?
Yeah, I know, Diana, you missed the meeting, but we actually did get a 5-minute, blurb, if you will, of cultural sensitivity training. It was pretty cool, that 5 minutes to get to hear them talk and to understand what they were talking about. So that was good. It's going to happen in every meeting, like you said. So looking forward to that for sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perry. Thank you, Vice President Autry. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, next, we'll move to item 29. We have no unfinished business. I don't have anything for new business. Does anyone have anything for new business? Okay, and we have no need for executive session, and therefore no need for an action from executive session, so we can move to a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Alexander. It's been seconded by Dr. Monar. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please. Dr. Thompson.
Mrs. McKittrick,
Yes.
Dr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
Mrs. Autry,
Yes.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Thompson. We stand in adjournment at 6:51 on Monday, November 6th. Thank you.